Okay, so I'm going to start. My name's Kendall. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm one of the organizers with Fridays for Future. And I've been mostly doing union outreach, but then also doing a lot of the graphic design with Fridays for Future, leading up to the November 29th strike, and then up to April 3rd. So last weekend we did a paint workshop where we did a painting of forests with pipelines going through it. It was really fun. But today we're going to do our sign making party, and this is to get people prepared for April 3rd, and to make sure we have a presence of people with signs like we normally do at a rally or a march, but online. So we're just trying to accommodate the fact that with COVID-19, we have to make sure that we are ensuring the safety of everyone, young and old, and moving everything online. So this is kind of a new thing for us to be starting, and I'm just excited to see how it goes. My co-host is Helena, and I'll just let her introduce herself as well.
Hi there, my name's Helena. I use she, her pronouns. I helped run the workshop last week, our paint night, and I'm excited to help with the sign making party as well. Kendall's one of my very good friends from childhood, but she's kind of pulled me into Fridays for Future as well, and I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, should we start with the presentation?
So for the outline of today's workshop, we're just going to go through a sign making party presentation we made. It kind of outlines like tips and tricks to making a good protest sign, and then we'll just unmute everyone and we'll have a discussion at the end, brainstorming like what types of messages we want to put on our signs, and then looking at the different types of social media campaigns that we're going to have going on for April 3rd. So that would include like taking a picture or video of yourself with your sign and sending it in, using specific hashtags, just to grow the movement a little bit online and to make some noise where it's kind of hard to do because the internet is so filled with a bunch of different things that we're competing with now, but hopefully we can make an impact as well. Yeah, so we're gonna start. So the first thing to think about is why we make a protest sign in the first place. And the protest sign is just about giving your voice kind of presence in a sea of people. So it's an opportunity to share your ideas and to personalize your message. So the message is the really important part you want to decide on when you're creating your sign, and understanding what you would like to show people and make people think about when they are joining and when they see you in the crowd.
So for our presentation, just as an overview, we'll be going over building your sign, what materials you might need, how you're thinking about building your message, what I think is a really important part, laying out your text. I've made lots of mistakes with that one. Designing your sign, and then showing your sign off.
So the first thing you want to decide is what material you're going to use as your board. So this is important for like if you're transporting on like the TTC, for example, if you can roll it up, if you're sticking any like 3D objects to it. So like poster board, so that's just like what you'd use for like a school project. It's kind of thin, easy to transport, and pretty cheap, but it can be damaged easily. So if you're protesting in like rain or snow, it's not exactly the best material to pick. Not that we can really predict what the weather will be. Foam core is thicker, so it's sturdy, and it's good for if you're attaching like 3D objects to your sign to give it some more like interest, but it's slightly more expensive. Cardboard is good. It can be repurposed, which is always a good thing. So Helena showed the example of like if you go to a grocery store, they often have boxes at the front that you can use for groceries. If you don't have cardboard at your house already, the last thing is corrugated plastic. So these are like the types of things that you use for lawn signs. They're really durable. Like you see them when there's an election a lot. So if you can repurpose one of those, that would be good. Otherwise, you can buy corrugated plastic, and it's really sturdy and weather resistant. So it will last a long time when you make a sign of that.
The next thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have all the materials you need to make a sign, and it might depend on what sort of sign you want to make, but you want to have your poster board, whatever type that might be, and then the writing tools that will work on that surface. I find marker really hard on corrugated plastic, like I usually do paint, but you can use what's on hand. Markers and paint tend to be the easiest to make very visible, big kind of letters and drawings, whereas things like pencil crown are a little bit harder to see in a crowd, but any material you can use if you kind of put your mind to it for writing. And then you might want to think of other accessory decorations. Is there a sticker of the group you're part of that you want to put on your poster too? Do you want to put glitter on to make something pop? And then how you're going to maybe mount some of your 3D elements if you're thinking of doing it a little bit more 3D.
Okay, so this one's a little bit more information, but it's the most important part of making your sign. So it's composing your message and thinking what you want to say, and it's recommended to choose one message per sign. So if you have a double-sided sign, you can choose 2 different messages, but per side, it's recommended to have one message. And then deciding how you want to use the text, the images, and symbols. So there's different things that you can use to convey the same message, and you can decide whether you want to use text, images, or symbols in kind of a creative way to communicate that message. The second thing is use clear and short statements. So this is a recommendation as well because it's just someone is walking by, they can read it clearly and understand the message within a short time frame. So what's recommended is 1 sentence or less, ideally 7 words or shorter, just to communicate the message very quickly and very effectively. The third thing is choosing a symbol if you want to use one. So like symbols can be like very eye-catching and recognizable, and they can communicate like a more in-depth message with one image. And they can be used in place of text or alongside text, and can be combined. So like examples are like the peace sign of like for climate, like a world on fire, kind of things like that. And then the fourth recommendation is making your message personal. So something that resonates with you is obviously going to be a stronger message and something that will be communicated to others more effectively if it's something that really is important to you as well.
So just the next point is just kind of remembering that in an outdoor rally or march, there's lots of different angles your sign might be seen from. Also, it might be seen kind of from farther away distances. So in terms of thinking about how you want to design, then you should think about that both sides have a message maybe if you have time, and that also they're legible. So using big letters, clear, sometimes like a cursive font might be really difficult to see at a distance. So thinking about like simple, easy fonts, and then just making them very big. The one thing you can do is if you want to you really like your message and you think it's something you want everyone to see, putting it on both sides of your sign means everyone behind you in a march and everyone in front of you in a march can see that and understand like what you feel and what you stand for.
So the next thing is laying out your text and designing the font. So laying out the text is really important. I've had it happen to me before where you try to write your words and then you're going really nice, they look really good, and then they get all squished at the end. So we're going to try to avoid that. So recommendation is using a pencil to draft your message. And kind of figuring out how many letters you need to put across to kind of know where your halfway point has to be. Otherwise, it will get really squished at the end. And then leaving room for any images or symbols that you wanted to include. So for example, if you wanted to put like a symbol at the end, you're leaving like enough space to fit that in after your words end. Designing the font, so it's recommended to use large bold fonts like Helena said, so that people will be able to read it from a distance because we're outside and people are in buildings, they're far away. We want them to be able to read it, and it's recommended to outline your text first and fill in with darker colors that contrast with the background. So in this case, we want to make sure that they're not blending into your sign at all, that you're using like very striking colors. And the font color may also help to convey a message. So for example, dark colors may emphasize the gravity of the message, or like a rainbow to represent LGBTQIA+. And then writing should be reinforced by the image or symbol, just lending to like cohesive message between them. And then you can also make sure that the color palette kind of goes similar throughout the images, symbols, and the lettering as well.
And my other piece of advice is just check your spelling. I didn't once, and there's like a picture in a news article of a sign where I like missed the R in corporate, and it just like lost some of its punch. So just being mindful of spelling and things like that as well. Yeah. So some just good design points that might be helpful. One is to limit your color palette. So as much fun as a rainbow is, sometimes using 2 or 3 colors helps keep a sign unified. And you can select the colors depending on what will work best for your image and your message. I think 2 like very impactful colors are black and red, but other colors are really helpful to convey specific things as well, as Kendall was saying. And another fun thing to do, trying to do mixed media, which can add kind of another dimension of interest with texture or 3D signs, like you could attach 3D glow. Brian last week for our paint night made this collage out of old Friday for Future sign, and it's actually really cool, and it's kind of exciting to see when people creatively use supplies to make signs or other art.
The next recommendation is to just check your sign from a distance after you've kind of written all the letters down. Can you read the words? If not, try to kind of redo the words in a stronger color or outline them in order to distinguish them from the background more. And then the last thing is adding any decorations. So any, depending on the message you're trying to convey, you can add different things like glitter, stickers, sparkles, etc. But then you can also do like graphic images or just kind of some art pieces that are part of your sign.
So our next stage is finding ways to show off our signs online, given social distancing. So Fridays for Future is holding a social media campaign so that we have a good presence at the online global climate strike on April 3rd. So we're looking for video and picture submissions of any posters you might make or other art you might make for the climate strike.
Yeah, so there's a campaign actually being, Fridays for Future is going to do the campaign with Climate Strike Canada, in addition to our own, getting people to submit pictures, but the Climate Strike Canada campaign is #Won'tBackDown. And there'll be more concrete information about this soon, just because it's in the works at the moment. But basically it will be a photo video submission of yourself with a sign and using some hashtags, including #Won'tBackDown, to show your presence online, just because we want to create that sense of unity and sense of collective purpose through like online spheres, and hopefully we'll be able to show how many people actually show up to our rally through a bunch of images of people participating in the signs like that. So take a picture of yourself with a sign, or take a video of yourself using the hashtags #Won'tBackDown, #Fridays for Future, and #GlobalStrikesForFuture. And then if you post on your own social media accounts and you use those hashtags, we will find them. However, if you want to send us a high quality photo, you can send it to our email at fridaysforfuture@gmail.com. And then we'll probably compile all of the images and post it on our social media accounts, showing everyone who participated in that campaign as well. Okay, so we're basically at the end of our slide presentation. Thank you for listening to us. We wanted to take some time to allow everyone to brainstorm different ideas and messages for a sign that they would want to take a picture of. And that, yeah, so we're just gonna kind of have a discussion in either the chat or on video if you want to speak out loud. If not, you can just message in the chat, but just giving some opportunity to brainstorm a message if you wanted to make a sign with us, just because I know when we usually organize, we often have sign making workshops where people will come and make their own sign as a group. So this is kind of an online adaptation of those kind of workshops. So we can just unmute people, and then if you want to speak, if you want to introduce yourself just to start and say why you're here, then that would be great, and then we can start making signs. Does anyone want to share? No? So I'm thinking of doing, for my own message, I'm thinking of doing the Won't Back Down. I was actually the person who came up with the logo. So I'm thinking of doing this logo specifically for April 3rd, just because it will resonate with some of the the messaging that's going around April 3rd. So I think I'm going to do Won't Back Down and do my logo as well as part of my sign. I don't know if anyone else has any ideas of what they wanted to do.
I don't really know what my main message is, but I think I wanted to incorporate some things that I did last week. There's some elements of posters, our demands, global climate strike. I don't know, these are kind of small, but I guess it's not too bad for online sign, I guess. But I'm not sure about the main message. I haven't really figured that out yet. That's more decoration.
Yeah, I guess with an online strike, you can take the picture a little bit closer, so it doesn't really have to be as large as we were talking about in our presentation. So that's a good point, just because when we're doing this presentation, it's more focused on if we're outside striking, and less so about like what we're doing today, just because it's online versus what we're normally doing in the streets. Does anyone else?
Okay.
Sorry?
Should our messaging be just within the theme, which is Green New Deal, Green New Decade, or we could, for the April 3rd, I was like talking about April 3rd. So, or we can do our own. Anything about environment and the planet would be okay. Or it could be political as well.
Yeah, I think that the thing about the Green New Deal is that it encompasses almost everything about climate and about a just transition. So I think any message would really be related to our overarching theme. And I think that's why we chose Green New Deal as our theme in the first place. So I think that, any message would be appropriate, and you can kind of decide what resonates best with you. I think it would be very fitting to have some messages be directed towards like the crisis that we're facing right now. I don't know if anyone has some ideas of like different spheres that they would want to tackle with their message. I haven't really thought much about mine either, but.
I was thinking from a more political side, and then a more just, I guess, broad climate change. Like I was gonna do a meme on the front, but on the back kind of do not the climate kind of message, but maybe finding a specific one that I don't, like what systems of oppression are at the root of climate change. I mean, they all are, but figuring out the messaging there. So having like two sides to the sign, one that more generally talks about kind of why climate change is bad, and then something I like politically align with, I guess. I don't know if that made sense, but.
And also, what you think when making a sign, which is more, you think is more effective, more of a kind of positive approach to like the words that you say, or more kind of like a scare tactics or whatever they call it. So what you think would resonate more to people that would catch more attention?
I think it depends what communicate with specifically. So I think the memes really resonate with youth. If you do something funny, if you have some relevant examples of different like pop culture icons, it's really well received, and like I know in September 27th, a lot of people really liked those ones and wanted to take pictures of them because they thought they were funny. But I think it's also important to have kind of a more serious one as well. I think it just depends on who you want to reach through the sign and who you want to kind of see it and take pictures and like have that interaction with, because I know a lot of people will like compliment others on the signs that they like. So yeah.
And just if I can chime in here, like I think too, one of the things is just how can the message empower other people to feel like it's protesting or being involved in and get involved. So that means like it's sort of like straddling the anger element, but giving a way to resist in a way. I don't know if that made any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like last year for the September one, I wrote just "How dare you," the Greta Thunberg quote, but I feel like it was too general. Like I want to do something more specific and more relatable for people to kind of see how they can act on it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to have kind of action items, I guess, for people with one sign, right? Because it's so you have to kind of limit your message a little bit, and yeah, so yeah, it's kind of a hard balance between like making them feel like this is something that they want to act on, but and then also giving them the tools to do it. So yeah, it's kind of a weird balance. Yeah, we were kind of having that debate as well in Fridays for Future, trying to figure out how our demands are linked to more specific action items. So for example, we had 8 very kind of broad demands that encompass a bunch of different issues. And I think that they're very general, and we needed to have concrete actions that people could do that were related to each one. So instead of doing more specific demands and making signs for them and putting it on our leaflets, we decided to do a separate document of action items, like who you can email, who you can call, what you can show up to do, and different things like that. So it's kind of like there can be something that's like auxiliary to your sign, not necessarily have to have everything on it.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you can start that conversation with people in person, then it can get to like the more action-based things that they can do. Zeke, did you want to share what you're thinking of doing?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I was kind of making a sign just kind of around like how like really the climate issue isn't like everyone's fault. Like it's really like the 1%'s fault in a sense. Like I was gonna say something like, I don't know, like the 1% is like burning the world, or like the 1% is like killing us. Like kind of like a globe or like something like that.
Yeah, I think that message is super fitting right now as well, just because we're seeing the impact of COVID on minorities and labor and people who don't have a lot of money or resources to fall on, that are being affected the worst, and that corporate people are getting taxpayer money bailouts. So I think that's really fitting right now, just because it's really obvious that the 1% are being favored by politicians, and and it's not fair, and it's kind of a good reflection of the climate crisis and like the pandemic that we're facing right now. Did anyone else have something they wanted to share about a sign that they're interested in making? Or different messages?
I did come up with something. I was thinking about maybe having the other health crisis and then the burning earth, or the other public health crisis and the burning earth, and then maybe climate action now or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Like directly linking both of the issues.
Yeah, does that sound interesting?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you make a sign, how much background knowledge can you assume your like the general like audience has?
I think again that depends on what audience you're wanting to reach, right? So if you are interested in reaching people who maybe they're showing up to their first rally, then it could be more generalized. You can assume that they don't really know a lot. They know the climate crisis is real, but that often assume that people understand, like I'm saying, links with labor, links with COVID. But if you like your message with the 1%, I think is assuming that people understand that the climate crisis is not has not been created by the general public, and that it has been created and knowingly being like worsened by corporate interests. I think that message would resonate more with people who have a more in-depth understanding of the crisis as an intersectional issue within society rather than people who don't know a lot. So I think it just depends who you're trying to reach, and I think that message would be, it's really powerful for sure, especially with people who are already knowing of the climate crisis and might learn a little bit more from your sign about those intersecting issues. I want to share I brought out some of my old signs. I'm just gonna share one that I really messed up with, the spacing. So this is a Wet'suwet'en protest sign, and it's my favorite one. I've taken it to so many actions before, but I really messed up on the spacing. So over here, this W is like huge, and it just got smaller and smaller until I just like crammed the N in at the end. It's still legible, but like the reason why it was so messed up is because I didn't have a pencil. I was doing it in pen, and I was on the streetcar just drawing it in pen, and I just couldn't fix it afterwards. So that's why it got a little bit squished. But nonetheless, it's still legible. So I've been using it a bunch, and I don't want to waste all my work. This is one that I did for September 27th. So this is like a combination of lettering of like symbols. So like this is like a recycling symbol, and then like some images. But these letters are kind of thin. So I think if I would improve this sign, I would probably do kind of thicker black letters for the tops and the bottoms, just so it's legible from a distance. And then on the back, I did this one. Both of them are fairly general messages, but I thought that like that was one of, well, that was like a more general strike, I guess, the global strike in September, and it was a lot of youth and a lot of people coming to the rally for the first time. So I felt like a general idea of like climate and climate justice was appropriate. Yeah. Like you said, Sam, yours was kind of general too, like with Greta's message. So I think that's like, I think in September, a lot of people, that was their first strike to ever go to. And I think that understanding that and having a more generalized message would reach more people as well. Okay, and then I'm going to share this one as well. This one's kind of hard to read. I didn't really I colored in too many things, so the background kind of like blends in with the words. But that's like a more kind of dark message, I guess. And it really resonated with me. I saw someone who had a sign that said this. But I thought it was like very, very impactful to people with like the outrage aspect of climate instead of the optimism, to communicate like the kind of really like anger that I was having, like that I was feeling from having to deal with the climate crisis in the first place. Does anyone have any other things they would like to share? Okay, well, I think that we've had a very good discussion on different messaging, as well as like the different techniques we can use to create our message, our sign. I can share our presentation on the event page. So if you are interested in taking a look at that, you can always go back to the slides and see kind of what the recommendations me and Helena have made about communicating a message. And then also if you have any other questions or things that you might not want to ask in the group chat here or on the video, you can always message Fridays for Future through Facebook or through Instagram to ask some questions there. There'll be more information coming up about the Won't Back Down online social media campaign soon. That is being finalized right now with Climate Strikes Canada, but just check that out soon. It will be on our pages, just about what hashtags to use and to send us your images with your sign. Okay, so I hope to see you all on April 3rd for our Global Climate Strike. We also have 2 teach-ins coming up this week. One is on Tuesday, it's on climate and labor. I'm helping run that one. And then on Thursday, it is on COVID-19 and Indigenous self-determination. So those will both be online and they'll be from 2 to 3 and they'll also be on a Zoom call. The event pages are up on our Facebook page as well.